Hi, welcome to Cooking with Brad Fenson. Today we're going to do a Canadian classic, Donairs, but instead of the standard meat, we're going to make this one out of moose. You can use any type of wild game, venison, elk, moose. Makes wonderful Donairs, lots of flavor. I actually have a recipe here to make it in a smaller batch, 3 pounds. And of course, we're going to add our spices. We've got some sweet paprika and pepper, oregano, onion salt, garlic salt, a little bit of cayenne. You can add more of that if you like the heat, and salt. So we're just going to add that to our meat here. And one of the things that helps bind it together is breadcrumbs. So we've got 3/4 cup of breadcrumbs. And there it is. Pretty simple. The trick to making this is to make sure that it is very well mixed. And we are actually going to run it through a food processor. I've also done it in a grinder where I triple grind the meat just to make it into a paste. You need it to be like, if you could imagine wieners or a bologna that is completely emulsified. The smoother the paste of meat, the better the product is in the end. So triple grinding or using a food processor makes it ideal. You know, the trick to making Donair meat is to mix it really well and get all the airspace. You want the spices to be very uniform, but you also want to get all the all the air out of the meat. What I like to do is put it in the food processor. I break this down into 3 or 4 groups of meat and put it in here and turn it on and emulsify it. Takes about 30 seconds a batch, but what you can see here, when you compare the two, that it's like a paste. It breaks it completely down. And then what we want to do is just incorporate that back together, just in case some of the spices are a little heavier in one portion of it than the other. But you can see that you can really make this dense now. It packs really well. And when I mix it, I try not to fold it over where you'd get an air into it, but just keep pushing it together and pushing it together. It's a lot like baking bread. I tell people, you know, a lot of times you can throw it on the cutting board and get the air to come out of it. But what we want to do is break this into 2 pieces, 2 even pieces, and make some loaves out of it. So that's about half and half. And here's the first one. Just keep pounding it so that you get all the airspace out of it. That's really the key to making Donairs. It's got to be nice and dense. Just going to grab a baking tray. And what we're going to do is just put these right in there. Try to keep them fairly uniform where the ends aren't elongated. Make it about the same size. 1. And then we're going to put this in the oven at 300 degrees. And we're going to cook them for 2 to 2.5 hours. And that seems like a long time, but it's very dense meat. It's got to cook all the way through. And it actually dries it out and firms it up a little bit with those breadcrumbs. So that's all part of the trick to this recipe. There they are. 2 loaves of Donair meat. Let's put them in. All right, there's our loaves. I actually pulled these out and let them cool a little bit. But there's our Donair meat. And you can actually put this on a meat slicer or use a knife and cut it really thin. And there's your Donair slices. You can see that they're nice and dense. And there's a ton of flavor in there. And of course, you serve these up in a pita. But it's easy to slice this whole loaf up. Still warm there. There it is, your Donair meat. Let's build one for you. Secret sauce for Donairs isn't so secret. It's sweetened condensed milk with vinegar and garlic powder. That's it. So you can make your own at home pretty easy. Put some of that on there. Layer lots of meat in as well. These are great for hunting camp or even when you're running late, don't know what to make for dinner. But there's the Donair meat. Of course, some lettuce, some tomatoes, and some red onion. You can add what you want to it. You can fill these as much as you want. And I highly recommend that you buy the pitas that roll. Some of them crack right away, but there it is. If you went to a store, they'd wrap it up at the bottom for you with some tin foil or wax paper. But wild game Donairs. Make them yourself at home.